Okay, so I thought I would go ahead and record myself kind of rewatching some of the matches that get played. I thought maybe you guys might find it helpful to, just see what I'm thinking when I watch these, the decisions that I might make, or not that I'm the best player or anything. I like to think I'm okay, but what might be like a bad move or a good move. Just kind of get into the thought process of playing. So I saw that we already had one match happen between the Dwarves and the Lizardmen here, and I've already watched a little bit of it. I definitely noticed some things that I would call misplays that could, probably be changed that would have helped kind of the Dwarves a little bit more here, but I'm not really trying to call anything out as much as just, help you guys with decision making and getting familiar with the game. So hopefully you have a better time and actually, have some fun. So I'm gonna go ahead and just watch the replay here.
Some bloody action. Count me in.
Obviously, this is the first match of the league, so nobody really has any skills yet, and how well you play is going to be heavily influenced by your composition. I'm going to go ahead and skip through these right here. Pretty standard team compositions. So, flip the coin. I'm not sure who won the coin flip, but whoever it was, let's see. It looks like Lizardmen are going to be receiving. Alright, first off, let's just pause for a moment and take a look at the Dwarf lineup as soon as this set up your team message goes away. Okay, you can press Control, by the way, if you don't know this, to kind of change the overlay for the game. That's what I'm doing here. This first one just shows names and levels. This one shows all skills. This one, if you press it 3 times, would show you all of the skills of each player beyond the ones that they start with. Since everybody's level 1, obviously there's nothing to show here. And I'm not really sure. I think pressing it 4 times just shows the grid, in case you find that helpful. I don't know. I usually play with it turned off, but if you're new, that you might find this kind of helpful. I'm going to leave it on this one for the video so that we can easily kind of reference the skills of everybody. So let's just talk about kind of the matchup here. We got Dwarves, which are a really, defense heavy team. Not very good at running the ball because, they all have, well, most of them have 2 agility, which is below average, 3 being your average number for agility and for strength. When you have 2 agility, that means that you're suffering pretty badly on all dodge rolls and any kind of roll that involves the ball. Now, we do have 2 runners here, which start with sure hands, which means that they get a free reroll on any, I believe it means they get a free reroll on any roll to pick up the ball off the ground, specifically, not catching, just picking it up off the ground. So obviously, as you can see, Dwarves not really great at running the ball down the field, but you got to get touchdowns if you want to win. So how do they go about doing that? Well, normally you're going to have Dwarves winning through attrition. You can see here that Big Daddy Club, I love that coach name. You can see he's got a Deathroller here, which is a whopping 7 strength. That's the highest base strength in the entire game. I think the only other player that starts with 7 strength is a Goblin Fanatic, and you can't control those. They just kind of move on their own. So the fact that he has 7 strength, whereas pretty much every other big guy in the game, like this Croxagore, starts with 5 strength, is huge. That means that he's going to have guaranteed 2 dice on every player. More often than not, it's going to be 3 dice. So your odds of actually failing a roll with this Deathroller, especially since he doesn't have any negative traits, not in the usual sense, like if you look at most of your teams that have big guys, they're going to have Bonehead or Very Dumb or something, which basically just means that they have a chance to not do anything on their turn. Deathroller doesn't have any of that. But the Deathroller does have this secret weapon skill. I can see that's not actually showing the descriptions of the skills, which is frustrating. But what secret weapon means is that at the end of a drive being a play, so from a kickoff to either a touchdown to the end of a half, at the end of that drive, if this player is on the field, they get red carded by the ref, and they're sent off the field for the rest of the match. You can't bring them back. Now, if you have a bribe, which is an inducement that you would purchase before the match, which was not done here, I think, you can spend that to negate the red card from the ref. There's a 1 in 6 chance that he does it anyway, but 83% chance that you get to keep your player on the field for another play, which is pretty huge. Anyway, what I was getting at, I don't know why it's not showing skills anymore. Anyway, what I was getting at here is that we have Dwarves, which are a very defensive team, and they win through attrition. They want to slow the enemy team down as much as possible throughout the match, and typically they're going to win 2-1 is what they're shooting for. They basically want to have the opponent receive first, and then spend that first 8 turns, especially since he has the Deathroller here, as much time as possible during those 8 turns, just beating up the opponent as much as you possibly can. And then after that play is over, your big Deathroller is sent off the field. There's your opportunity now that you got 5 or 6 players off the pitch that you no longer have to deal with, ideally. You can just completely move on and not have to think about it anymore. So, to that end, it's important that your Deathroller, if you have one, is hitting people literally every turn. Now, let's look at the Lizardmen real quick. You got 3 players on the Lizardmen. You have Skinks, which have dodge and stunty, so they're very good at evading tackle zones. Normal agility, nothing too special there, but they have 2 strength, so pretty much, since that's below average, that means that most players in the game are going to have at least a 2-die block against a Skink, which means they're going to be getting hit much more often. And since they have 7 armor, the average armor being 8, that means that they are going to be injured more often as well. So you need to be careful with your Skinks, because chances are they're probably going to get their bones broken, if not die. Then you have your Saurus here, which is 4 strength. I think Lizardmen actually have the highest amount of +3, or of, I think they have the highest amount of players on a team that have more than 3 strength. Now, normally that'd be pretty scary, because you can see it's a really lopsided team. He's got 6 Saurus here, and a Croxgore, which has 5 strength. We'll get into that in a minute. But that means that more often than not, he is going to have the fighting advantage against these Dwarves. So you might think that's pretty scary, but look at this. 1 agility on the Saurus and the Croxgore. You basically have 7 players on your team right now that can't handle the ball at all. If any of these players pick up the ball, if they catch the ball, whatever it is, that's a fucking miracle, honestly. Like, that just should not happen whatsoever. So my strategy here as the dwarf player is that I would be aiming to kill all of these Skinks, or get all of these Skinks off the field as soon as possible. Ideally, spending these first 8 turns just kind of holding the line against these bigger tough guys, and specifically aiming to take out these Skinks, because if you can take out those Skinks and get them off for the rest of the game, it's very unlikely the Lizardmen are ever going to score a touchdown without a Skink. It's just, it's so incredibly difficult when you have 1 agility. As the Lizardman player, you have a couple things to be aware of. I would actually say the Dwarves, believe it or not, probably have the advantage in this matchup, purely at a team value 1000, no skills. And the reason for that is this. Now, they have runners for carrying the ball. There's nothing special to talk about with the runner. Let's see, we'll get a normal dwarf here. Okay, we got blitzers. Most of the dwarven units start with block. Block is probably the best skill in the game. Well, not to say that it's like better than other skills, but it's just the amount of value that it brings. I think there is incredibly rarely, if at all, almost no situation where block does not bring value to a player. It's just such a good thing to have. It increases your odds of knocking down the opponent because it turns one of the die rolls when you block into your favor. That being the both down. And it also makes you harder to hit in general. Again, from the enemy's perspective, being the both down. That's not going to knock you down anymore. It's so strong to have block. So the fact that all of the dwarves start with this, except for the runners and the Deathroller, is very, very good. Because they're going to be punching more, and they're going to be taking fewer punches. Also, despite the fact that you have 7 players here with higher strength than average, dwarves, pretty much all across the board, I think, have thick skull. This means that they are less likely to be knocked out on an injury roll. I might make a quick video kind of explaining how injury rolls work for people who aren't familiar, but basically, you have a chance to be stunned, you have a chance to be knocked out, you have a chance to be injured every time that you're knocked down. And this just changes one of those knockouts to a stun. So it's harder to get the dwarves off the field. In addition to that, aside from the troll slayers and the runners, all of his players have 9 armor. That's above average. So you're going to be struggling to even stun these guys. I mean, the Deathroller has 10 armor, but it's very unlikely that you're even going to be able to hit the Deathroller to begin with, to be honest. Then you have your Troll Slayers, which have 8 armor. That's average. Now, the Troll Slayers kind of even the playing field here. This is kind of critical against fighting against a Lizardman team in this situation, in that the Deathroller and your Troll Slayers are going to be the ones hitting the most against the Saurus and Croxigor. Now, the Deathroller is self-explanatory. It's got 7 strength. Obviously, obviously it's going to be hitting a lot. But the Troll Slayers, they only have 3 strength. The reason that you can reliably hit with the Troll Slayers is because they have Dauntless. I don't remember exactly how it works off the top of my head. You basically roll dice and like subtract strength based on it. It's kind of a complicated roll. But if I remember correctly, the way that it works out is essentially if you are attacking an opponent with higher strength than you, you have a chance to bring your strength to match theirs. So that means that a Troll Slayer can attack a Saurus and act as if he has 4 strength, turning that into a 1-die block. 1-die blocks usually are not that good, and I would advise that you don't do them. But if you have the block skill, like all these dwarves do, they're actually not the worst. You only have a 17%, 1 in 6 chance of actually hurting yourself on a 1-die block, assuming that you have the block skill. So, you know, that's fairly safe. Chances are you'll be okay. And then, you know, of course, when you're matching the opponent's strength, then you only need 1 person in unmarked zone, like this Longbeard right here. Assuming this Saurus wasn't here, that Longbeard would turn that into a 5 strength attack, meaning you actually get 2 dice. Then, on top of that, the Troll Slayer also has Frenzy, which is kind of a 2-edged sword, because yes, you're going to be able to get 2 attacks off of 1, assuming the first one doesn't knock the guy down, but it also means that you have to follow through on every single attack that you do with that player. So sometimes you can end up having your Frenzy players in a position that's not great. Now, the Blitzers, nothing special to talk about here. I mean, they're players with block. The other key player in this matchup for the Dwarves is going to be the Longbeards. The reason for that is that they have Tackle. Tackle's very simple. All it does is that anytime you basically have an interaction with an opposing player that has the dodge skill, in this case it's going to be the Skinks, they all start with it, Tackle just makes dodge not work. It won't do anything. So the Skinks will not get a free reroll if they dodge through a tackle zone of one of the Longbeards with the tackle skill. And also, if a Longbeard attacks a skink and they get the Defender Stumbles roll, which is the blue star result, normally dodge would turn that into a push, meaning that the skink does not get knocked down. But because he has tackle, it would still hit him. Now, with that said, even though I think the dwarves have the advantage here, the Lizardmen have a pretty simple strategy to follow. First off, like I said, they're a lopsided team, very strength heavy. So right off the bat, you're kind of telling yourself, all right, I need to be hitting as often as possible. It's unlikely you're going to get injuries in this matchup because dwarves are probably the hardest players in the game to actually injure, given their armor and thick skull traits. And your swords don't actually start with any skills. Your Kroxigor has Mighty Blow, which means that you are going to have a higher chance to break armor and a higher chance to injure. But even with that, it's not very likely. But knowing that, the Lizardmen can look at this situation and say, okay, he has players that counters my skinks, and he has some players that kind of counter my strength, especially the Deathroller. That's going to be the problem. When I see a unit like this on the field, when I see a player like this, that I think is going to be very problematic for me, but they have Secret Weapon, immediately my thought becomes, okay, the other guy wants to make this last as long as possible, most likely, depending on what the player is, but usually they want to make it last as long as possible, so they can dish out as much damage as possible. So, therefore, it is in the best interest of the Lizardman player to actually score a touchdown as soon as possible. If they can rush a touchdown, that means the Deathroller gets sent off the field. You don't have to deal with it for the rest of the game, and suddenly that guy's wasted his time even bringing the player. So, let's switch view again and talk about the Dwarven formation real quick. I think it's wise to have a good amount of players on the line of scrimmage when you're playing against the Lizardmen. They want to be fighting as much as they possibly can, and when you're dwarves, you can take the hits, so why not? I think it's good to have their Troll Slayers up front, because then they can start dishing out the damage and fighting back. I think one of the problems here is that the Deathroller is farther back. You're forcing him to take a blitz roll, and in general, I would say there's no reason to make a blitz roll unless you, like, there's no reason to force yourself into making a blitz when you don't need to, especially when putting the Deathroller on the center of the field. If you look at this formation, the Kroxigor is unmarked, so he can go wherever he wants, and your center is really weak. So, of course, the Lizardman player is receiving, so they can change their formation however they want, but you've basically given the Lizardmen the opportunity to do whatever they want in the middle. I think putting the Deathroller up on the line, it's incredibly difficult to compete with a 7 strength player. So just have him up there, have him be a presence, and he's tying up 3 players that can't really do anything else, right? Especially with 1 agility, a Saurus and a Kroxigor are almost never going to actually make a dodge roll. Despite the fact that they can hit you, and they can hit hard, if you just keep 1 player on them and force them to dodge, they can't do anything, right? Like, that's really the key there. You have to make it so they are forced to dodge. Make them play to the aspect of the game that they are not good at. The other issue I would say here is that all of the Longbeards are in the middle, right? We have our blitzers on the side and our runners on the side. Now, on most teams, your blitzer, if you have one, is going to be probably the only player that you have at the beginning that starts with block. Not always, but for most teams that's the case. So it makes sense to put them on the sidelines like this because you want to use them to flank and hopefully hit somebody. But considering that every dwarf player starts with a block, a blitzer is basically just any other dwarf except not as good. They're not as good as Longbeards, they're not as good as Troll Slayers. They can't pick up a ball like runners. So blitzers are actually kind of, I don't know if I want to say worst, but like least able to be utilized, right? When you have all your Longbeards with these tackle skins in the middle of the field, the skinks are just going to run along the sides. The skinks aren't going to go through the center, right? So your tackle's not doing anything against these guys. It has absolutely no use. And the players that it does work against are going to be avoiding you completely. In my opinion, I probably would have swapped the blitzers with at least 2 of the Longbeards here. You maybe could have kept these 2 in the back, but I really think there should have been a Longbeard on either flank here, and that probably would have helped out quite a lot when it came to dealing with the skinks. Alright, I've been talking a lot. Let's go ahead and see what the Lizardmen are doing here. Okay. Good kick, and both teams lose a turn. That's an unfortunate event. And ball landed in a pretty mediocre spot. Okay. Before we get moving here. So as you can see how the Lizardmen set his team up, he knows he has a strength advantage, so he's putting his source in a way that he's getting these one-on-one blocks right off the bat. He knows that he's going turn 1, so he gets to hit first. So immediately hits the blitzer, easy. Hits this guy, easy. Hits the Troll Slayer, easy. Because the Troll Slayer's ability only works when attacking, so when they're defending, they're still 3 strength. So again, he has the advantage across the entire line here, as you can see. And then of course there's nothing in the middle. Crendor can go wherever he wants and can easily just break open this center. If the Deathroller were in the middle here, he would be covering both of these sources, which means they can't hit the Troll Slayers. Well, they could still hit the Troll Slayers, but you know. Anyway, it would be a lot harder for the Lizardmen to play there. Let's go ahead and watch what the Lizardmen do here. Immediately moves his Crendor. Doesn't blitz with it, which I find surprising. Hits with the source. I imagine he's going to go for all 6 hits here. Why not? 2-die rolls are pretty reliable. The opponent does have block, but that's not necessarily bad for you. It just means you're less likely to actually hit them. Not more likely to fail, at least, which is really what matters. When you're looking at dice rolls in this game, don't be thinking about your odds of success as much as you're thinking about your odds of failure. Because if you fail, you lose your turn. Gets the ball and moves it up to the line of scrimmage. It's an okay position. Alright, and like I said, he goes for all 6 hits, and it's pretty easy. That's a pretty typical turn from a bash team right there. You're going to see them kind of just like making as many hits as they can. He makes a nice loose cage around the ball here. Although honestly, with the advantage he starts with so much high strength, he probably doesn't even need to do that just because of how it's not likely the Dwarves are going to be able to bust through that easily enough, not without the Deathroller at least. Alright, let's see how the Dwarves react to this. Starts off, does a 1-die block. That worked out. You can see he already got value from the block skill there. And let's see if I can rewind here. Nope. What am I doing? There we go.
Is gonna be enough to come out on top?
Wow, this rewind system, I don't know if there's a way for me to just rewind roll by roll. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Anyway, but you'll see this Dwarf here is going to attack. It's a 1d6. He gets the both down result. Immediate value from block. Knocks him down. That's why you love that skill. Troll Slayer comes in to assist on this source. I don't really think that was necessary. Probably could have just stood this player up for the same effect. And in general, I would say when you are making your turns, you want to take the safest actions first and then save the riskiest actions last. So whenever you start a turn, you probably, first thing you want to do is just stand up all of your players. Unless you need them to move and do something else that would require a roll, just stand them up so they're marking people their tackle zones, assisting in hits. Because then if this player was stood up right here, he could have assisted with the Saurus. Could have had the Troll Slayer come to the side to fight the Saurus here. Probably could have taken him out. Suddenly you have a guy right next to the ball. That would have been very good.
Good call. Intimidation is the key.
Pretty typical rolls.
Strength when I was good.
Blitz from the Deathroller. Gets a hit. You'll love to see it. That's why the Deathroller is great. Alright, cracking the cage open, getting some pressure on the ball.
Smells weakness.
Now, what you may have already noticed is that the ball carrier is unmarked, can move freely, and there is a gap on this side of the field that he can run down without interference. What you need to be aware of when you're playing against a team that's got players like this that can move quickly and really get around without much, how to put it, like, without putting themselves in danger, is you need to be aware of where the breaks in your line are and where these kind of like safe lanes that they're going to run through are. When you're playing against something like skinks, you know, they feel pretty comfortable going down these sidelines at the edge of the field because they can just get right through, and then instead of ending next to the side, they can just step one in and it's not a big deal. What I would have done here is when he moves a runner, I would have moved him, instead of to the space here, I would have moved him up one into the left to mark that source and then hit with the blitzer. And then that way the source still has two people marking him at the beginning of his turn. And it also means that the skink can't just run up the side as easily. Tries to stand up the croc score, bonehead, happens, nothing you can do about it. Okay, peeling open the defense. So now there's a safe avenue right there that they can run through. Switch views here. Knocks him out of the way towards the center of the field, making it even easier for a skink to go through. Makes a going for it roll.
It will finish in the public, and in general, fans are much more dangerous than players.
One thing I would say, especially if you have the ball carrier like this, you know, real quick, just want to see what he does here. Okay, just something to be aware of. This is kind of risky for the ball carrier when you have an opening like this, because it would not be too difficult for the other player to peel a dwarf away right here and maneuver them in such a way that they can knock this player off the field. Then you're losing a player. Even if they don't get injured or knocked out, they're off for the rest of the play. And the ball is going to go somewhere completely unpredictable, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's not really a good thing either. So if you were to do this, I would recommend just stepping them in one when you end their movement, just so they don't get pushed off the side of the field. Because losing your skinks in this matchup could be really risky. Deathroller hits a source, Mighty Blow gets a stun.
One more step in.
Getting good hits, going for the skinks, which is probably a good call. Goes for a dodge roll, doesn't pay off. Before they move, let's just take a look here at probably the most important move. Every turn you need to be thinking about what the most important thing you need to do is when it comes to winning the match or stopping the other player from scoring. Whatever it is, there's usually one move in every turn that is your most important move. In this case, I would say it's stopping the ball carrier. He's close enough to the end zone. You can see he's got 8 movement. It doesn't give me the overlay, so I can't show it. But it's enough to score on this turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? Doesn't even have to make a going for a roll. Super safe. So with that in mind, by far the most important thing here would have been stopping the ball carrier. What I would have done is this Longbeard, which moved from this space over here to hit this skink. I would have instead, just occurred to me, I don't even know if you can see my mouse. Anyway, I would have instead moved him up and around, and potentially, yeah, I mean, moving him into this space right here, like I said, could have knocked the skink off very easily because the source is there. That would have been a 1 die block. You have a 5 and 6 chance of, or well, a 4 and 6 chance of knocking him off the field, a 1 in 6 chance of hitting him anyway, and then a 1 in 6 chance of failure. That's pretty good odds. That definitely would have been the move, I think. If for whatever reason you don't feel comfortable doing that, at the very least, could have put the dwarf right here to stop the ball carrier from advancing. Granted, it would have been pretty easy to get the swords to just blitz in and hit him anyway. But I think this was, in particular, a pretty big misplay. Definitely should have hit the ball carrier there. And then you can see he immediately doesn't even bother hitting anybody, goes straight for the touchdown. And in this case, that's really bad for Dwarves because, like I said before, now his Deathroller is off the field and he was only able to make like 2 hits with it. Wasn't able to do any fouling. Didn't really hurt anybody with it like he would have liked. And there goes the Deathroller.
I don't understand why secret weapons are still banned. All the pleasure they bring to the spectators.
It's doubly important here because there were no backup players in reserve. This kind of comes down to a starting composition thing, whether you want to take a couple cheaper players to even out the fact that you're bringing a Deathroller, because now you have 10 players for the rest of the game as opposed to 11, which is what you would normally have. You know, taking this comp is fine, yeah, but you really need to be making use of that Deathroller in the early game in order to really make it worth it. So now the Lizardmen are going to be kicking to the Dwarves. And as we've established, the Dwarves are not very good at running the ball. And even though they can match the Lizardmen in terms of strength here, I would not say that they particularly have an advantage, especially when playing offense. Is this what he's similar with? Okay. High kick. Good for the Dwarves. Before he moves, just look real quick. So we have a strong center line from the Lizardmen here. Really not willing to give up the center of the field. And then you have 2 swords that are free to maneuver as they need to. Skinks are always going to be free to maneuver. That's what they do. Not really a big deal. I would say as far as defense goes here, there's not really any reason to have skinks this far back from the line. They're just not doing anything and you're kind of just wasting your movement now. I would have them closer, not like right up on the line because you don't want them marked in a way that they have to make a dodge roll or something, but in this situation when you're playing defense, I don't think there's any real reason against Dwarves especially to have them more than like 2 or 3 spaces back. When you have it this far back, he's wasting a turn just running up to the line and not doing anything. Then as far as the Dwarves go here, yeah, I mean, this is pretty standard. Keep one guy in the back to catch the ball. I would say you kind of have to match the center aggression going on for the Lizardmen here. And knowing that the dwarves are going to be on offense, really what you have to do is keep these big lizards here marked, and then that way you can hopefully snag the ball and ideally try and outmaneuver them while you get to the end zone, because then mainly what's going to be stopping you is the skinks. Are the swords going to knock you down every turn? Yes. But if you can just keep standing back up at the least and making it so they have to either hit you or make a dodge roll to do anything useful, I mean, that's in your favor, because they're not going to make a dodge roll. You're playing dwarfs, they're not going to get hurt from getting hit, right? And there's just... You're basically making it so the swords can't really do anything particularly useful. So you can have these guys on the line marking them, while the rest of your guys play around the ball. No issue. So I would say this is probably a pretty good team setup for the situation. Maybe move this runner or Longbeard, you know, more to one side. Like maybe you're spread a little bit thin. If you have them just a little bit more to one side, obviously you don't know where the ball is going to land, but that enables you to sort of quickly move into an aggressive play down one side of the pitch. Moves his runner over. Pretty typical for a high kick. Doesn't really matter. He's not going to catch it because he's a dwarf. Not a big deal. Alright, start off. There's your Dauntless proc, which lets him get a 1D. Rolls again because of Frenzy. Push. Alright. Pushing them to the left because he wants to open up the right side to run the ball down. That's all good. Oh, I forgot to say, because I can see the skills now. Again, the only complaint I would have with the dwarf formation here is that you've put all your players with tackle in the middle of the field. You're keeping them from handling the players that they handle best by forcing them to fight these swords. I definitely would have put the blitzers in the middle, because the Longbeards can handle the skinks way better than the blitzers can. That's all.
Well done, little fella.
Sure hands gets him the ball.
It's not often he exceeds in such an action.
Start setting up, I don't know if I would call this a cage, but stopping the opponent from coming in to do anything about it. And this is pretty good. You know, you're using your tackle zones as a way to kind of stop the opponent from advancing. Alright, as expected, Lizardmen are going to have that center field dominance. Not a whole lot you can do about that, of course. Frees up a source and goes to cover that exit. Very smart. And then just dish out as many hits as you can. It's good use of blitz to make sure you can deal a hit and still advance towards the ball carrier. And you can see already Lizardmen are trying to kind of flank around and surround the ball carrier, which is very bad for the dwarves in this situation.
Not a wise place to end your turn on the border of the pitch. If the player gets pushed into the crowd, well, the last time that happened, it took 3 days to piece the body back together.
Alright, let's take a look at where we're at. Dwarves are really clustered on one side of the field. They have the ball. You got 3 guys over here that were kind of holding the line, but now aren't doing a whole lot of anything. And now the Swords have control of the middle of the field and can very easily wrap around and envelop the ball carrier and get you stuck in a corner, which it's looking like he's already doing. Like this front line right here doesn't look like a whole lot, but that's pretty difficult to get through, especially if you're playing a team like Dwarves and can't rely on dodges. You can take out this Saurus if you knock him down. That kind of opens up a gap, but it's hard to dodge as Dwarves to begin with. So at this point, You really got to try and bust open a hole, or you got to try and change what the play is. But because he's getting wrapped around on the other side, he kind of just has to go forward. Knocks him down. Okay. I would have pushed him to the right because that would have allowed him to create an opening, potentially. When you push it forward like that, he's still covering ground, and now, you know, you're forced to make dodge rolls, which is iffy. Loose cage on the ball carrier. So, what happened up here, for the most part, was fine. Get rid of this real quick. But, again, you still have this opening in the center of the field, and you have nothing covering you back here. So it's very easy to wrap around. I would have taken this runner and moved him probably about right here, or somewhere where he's using his tackle zones as a sort of wall, so that they can't just run through straight for your ball carrier. Because where he is right now, he's not covering a lot of ground. It's easy for them to swoop in. But if you cut off that area that they would otherwise be able to come from, he's actually doing a lot more work for you. And like I said, that Saurus just runs right around. If that dwarf was over there, he wouldn't have been able to do that. And now they're all right up on the ball carrier, no issue.
Attacker has an assist.
Trying to get the guys off the back of him needs to free up an opportunity for the ball carrier to kind of escape here.
Well, that'll shake things up.
Now, before we watch what happens next, let's see what we have left here. We got 3 dwarves, and we have the ball carrier right here. He's currently got 2 skinks on him, and a Saurus nearby. This is not a great place for the ball carrier to be. He's completely undefended from the right side. So, he does have a safe avenue here to kind of get out. And he would be moving back a little bit if you were to go like right here. But now you're away from the bulk of the enemy team. These guys are kind of preoccupied and can't really follow you. Yeah. I would say probably moving the ball carrier back here would be a good move in this situation, and then hopefully you can move him around the left of the field before they catch up. Now, in order to do that, that's a little bit trickier. The runner would have to make a dodge roll. That being said, the runner has 3 agility, but he's already out of team rerolls at this point in the match, so you're kind of just leaving it up to fate, but I mean, that's what this game is about. So, sometimes you got to do it. And it looks like he's going to go ahead and try that. Good hit on a skink. Yeah, that's not the move. Yeah. Got an injury, though. That's nice. You got a skink out. But, yeah. As you can see, you have a little bit of a cage, but you still have the whole enemy team, especially from the center here, where you have no coverage, that's just going to come in and envelop you. I think it was really critical. You should have just gone for that dodge roll there. I think that would have been your best bet. Bring him into the back, out of the fray, and hopefully just, like I said, wrap around to the left, because I would imagine now the Lizardmen are going to capitalize on this and just go for the ball carrier. Let's take a look. Stands back up, makes a dodge for no reason. To mark the ball carrier, I guess, actually. A little bit risky. Real quick before I watch any more, if you're going to make a move like that, I assume that this dodge was made purely to keep the ball carrier marked. You should dodge out and then walk back in, because when you dodge from one tackle zone to another tackle zone, you actually have lower chances of doing it. So it's just it's just better for you. Less chance of failure. Obviously, it didn't really matter right here. Bonehead, that's unfortunate. Nothing you can do about it, though. That dwarf is pushed out of the way, and now you can easily move the Saurus onto the ball carrier. And then aside from that, he's just going for hits. As I said before, when it comes to the Saurus, if you have a person standing next to you, you have to hit it. Dodging is not an option. Unless you can get somebody to knock them out of the way for you, which would be ideal, so you can put them where they need to be, but these few Saurus he's moving around, can't move them anywhere. And as you can see now, ball carrier is trapped, can't go anywhere. So this is just going to turn into a punching match here. Tackle getting some value, hitting that skink when he should have dodged, that's good. Goes for the dodge roll, too little, too late, loses the turn. Especially because you're playing dwarfs, and you had lower agility there. And again, you were dodging from one tackle zone into another tackle zone. I would have made some punches with your other dwarves first. You could have gotten these Saurus in the back here. Probably could have gotten them out of the way, knocked them down. Could have done a hit here with this Saurus, free you up. Hell, you probably could have hit this Saurus as well and kind of loosened that that net that was constricting around the ball carriers, that you would have had more room to dodge, and ideally you wouldn't have lost your turn at the least. That's why you make the riskiest moves last when you can help it. But it's turn 8, nobody's going to get a touchdown anyway. So it's just going to come down to punching at this point. And unsurprisingly, he's just getting every hit he can with every Saurus, because why not? Especially in the early matches of a league like this, you want to be trying to get as many skill points as possible. And on a bashy team like this, that just means punching at every opportunity. Of course, when you're going up against a dwarf team. Oh, okay. Wait, a foul attempt right there. I probably would not have done that. It didn't end up being an issue, but 9 armor on a dwarf means that you need a lot of guys surrounding that dwarf in order to actually reliably break his armor. Because the idea behind fouling is that you're trying to either at the least knock them out, but ideally injure them so they're out for the rest of the game. Now, you can do that with skinks because they're cheap, and he's probably going to, you know, if he does injure that guy, he's taking out way more value than the skink is worth, even if the skink gets red carded. The problem here is that it's incredibly unlikely that's going to happen in this setup, and I don't think it's worth losing the skink when you're already down 1 skink, and your skinks are going to be scoring you touchdowns. Granted, Lizardmen are in the lead, so, you know, I suppose he can risk to lose that skink, but I don't know if you want to put yourself at a player disadvantage going into the next half, so that's... I would have called that risky with not much possible gain, but it worked out, so... Turn A back to the dwarves. Going to hit the skink. Yep, that's the right move. Only a stun, I think. Yeah. Red dice. Even in a situation like this, I would not be going for red dice. It's not worth losing your player. Granted, like I said, dwarves hurt to hurt injure anyway, so it's unlikely they're going to go off, but you never know. Dice could be unkind to you. Well, teams are even once again, 10 players each side, although dwarves are losing a much more critical player than the Lizardmen are. Looks like they're going to be kicking to the dwarves again. Okay, I brought the skinks a little bit closer this time. Not too bad. And what kickoff event do we get? High kick again. Okay. Oh, that was a good kick too. Very good kick by Lizardmen. It's close to perfect. Not that you have much control out of that.
Rather big and ungainly hands.
Gets the hit. Okay, again, getting the hit is good. Push to the left in that situation. He's got all of his guys on the other side of the field, and now you have a Saurus blocking the one way that you were likely to go. You could have taken your ball carrier and then taken him up the right side of the field, potentially going for a touchdown, and all he's going to be able to fight against is, you know, a couple skinks and maybe one Saurus, especially if you move these players in the back to cover the other Saurus so that they can't maneuver. But now you've basically just ensured that that's not a possibility because you've pushed the Saurus right into the direction you should be trying to go. Other than that, this is looking pretty good. A key part about playing offense that people tend to forget is you only want to commit a few of your players to the area that you're trying to push into. In this case, the right side of the field. And then you need other players occupying the rest of the enemy team and stopping them from advancing and looping around you. So, you know, this right here, this is pretty good. This is ideally what you want to be doing. But like I said, that Saurus definitely need to go to the left. Push him away from where you're trying to go. Saurus are all going to go for the hits because that's what Saurus do. Oh, skulls. That's no good. Down a reroll already.
Go big guy.
Hold on, I need to look at something. Did the dwarves start this match with only one reroll? Oh, did both of you start this match with only one reroll? No, Lizardmen start with two rerolls.
Better than hitting someone smaller than you.
Oof. That's fucking scary. Okay. Starting with two rerolls is already kind of spooky. Starting with one reroll is insane. Not to pick on anyone. He's my friend, though. I can pick on him. Yeah, I would say generally, and this is kind of why I try to like link the starting team rosters on the Discord channel that I was talking about. You want to try and start with, you know, I would say at least two rerolls, preferably three, when you're making your starting team, because you're going to need a couple each half. You probably don't need more than three because at that point you're going to be losing out on high value players. But the important thing is when you're making your team, your rerolls are half the cost of what they would otherwise be. So after your first match, your rerolls are going to double in cost, and it's going to be much, much harder to get more. So you're putting yourself at a significant disadvantage for multiple matches if you don't get those critical rerolls when you make your team. But sometimes that can work out if you're going for a specific strategy. You know, now that I'm noticing, that's probably why there's 4 Longbeards, and so that's why there's so many positionals on this team. It looks like he's actually kind of grabbed every positional he can, I think. And you got 2 Troll Slayers, 4 Longbeards, and 2 Runners. Those are going to be much more expensive than your Blitzers, I think. I don't know for sure, though. I would have to actually check the roster for the Dwarves. Dodge roll doesn't pay off. Prehensile tail. Again, that dodge roll right there, I mean, granted, it's Dwarf making a dodge roll, so it's unlikely. But again, you're dodging from one tackle zone into another tackle zone, which is just making it even worse. So at the least, step out of the tackle zone and then step into the new tackle zone. It costs you 1 more movement, and it makes things a lot easier on you. Let's watch Lizards. Gets push. Ball carrier here, unfortunately, doesn't have any defense. Wide open target. And here comes the Saurus.
They're going for the ball.
Skink coming in, getting ready for the ball to drop so that he can steal it, go for a touchdown. He's in touchdown range. Important to note right here. Ooh, going forward roll does not pay off. Looks like, did he use his reroll? Check real quick. He did not use his reroll, and honestly, didn't really need to because he's got a pretty favorable position right here. I mean, he's already got 2 guys on the ball carrier. It's not a big deal that he failed that. I will say you got to be careful with going for it rolls. I know that they can seem like they're pretty reliable because they're 83%, but any roll is a chance of failure, right? So maybe hit guys a little bit if you can first. I didn't see if these guys already attacked. They probably did. But, you know, there are other actions that you could probably do before you need to take a going for it roll. Something important to note for the Dwarf player here is that, again, if you look right here, not only is the ball runner covered by a Saurus, but if he gets knocked down, that skink is in touchdown range. That's going to be an immediate touchdown. So most important thing this turn is trying to find a way to save this ball carrier for sure. Let's see what happens. All right, pulls guy back. That's good. Pulls the Slayer back.
The carrier himself blocks. That's really risky.
Like
Blocks with the ball carrier. Alright, I mean, that's not... That right there isn't too bad. You do have to consider you have another Saurus right here, though, that's going to stand up next turn and it can just hit you. But otherwise, that's pretty much fine. I maybe would have used your Blitz, depending on how daring you are, to hit that Saurus, because then you can push him away, move afterward to a better position, wherever that may be, probably on the left here in this situation. Getting your hits in. I would definitely say right now, this runner needs to come back. Yep. I would have brought them even farther back, like touching the ball carrier probably. You need to make it difficult for that Saurus to get that hit in. And you'll notice I'm not even paying attention to what's going on over here because this, frankly, these 4 players back here are doing absolutely nothing for either team, so it doesn't matter.
Can the player force possession
Of course,
away from
like
the
I
ball
said, that
with
Saurus stands up, hits, doesn't get the knockdown though, which is lucky. Stands his other Saurus up. Definitely, I think these doors were still able to move. I would have moved them back if possible. Because now the Croc score is in the mix, which is not what you want.
He won't leave him alone anytime soon.
right now we just have both teams trying to secure the ball, really. No, that's a skull. Skink goes down. Okay. This is actually very good for dwarves. Dwarves have a great opportunity here. Let's pause. Okay. Once again, most important move right here is going to be freeing up the ball carrier. We got to get him out of this position. You have a nice sideline down the middle of the field. There's one gap in the middle. I'm just going to get this off the screen. That, you know, Lizardmen can run through right now. But you could have moved that Troll Slayer right there. Move the ball runner to the left. And probably could have figured something out with this Saurus here. Probably hit Saurus with one of these guys. Move the other one to cover the Saurus, right? And then your ball carrier is in a much, much more secure position than where he is right now. And hopefully not threatening an enemy touchdown. So I would like to see the blitz come from this runner and hit that Saurus off of the ball carrier so he's free to move to the left. But we have the blitz come from here instead. Both down, you get a hit on a skink. That's always good, I guess. I wouldn't even bother rolling back here right now because, again, these guys aren't really doing anything. And if you're going to do any roll, like what you just did, what you should be doing, at the least, is getting that Saurus off of this other dwarf so he can come over and help with whatever is going on over here. Because if you think about it right now, you have one player on the enemy team occupying 2 of your players, which, you know, is not good for you.
Good call. Intimidation is the key. It's one of my strengths when I was still playing.
Bonehead on the Croxagore. That's huge for the dwarf player. That's not what you want to see as Lizardmen right now. Gets a push. Saurus are unfortunately not getting many good rolls. Not getting the hits that they want to get, that is. Just waiting to watch the runner go down. I'll be amazed if that doesn't happen. And double skulls, reroll, gets the hit. Okay, neither player has rerolls now.
Against the spirit of the game. Give people random violence.
Alright, once again, ball carrier is in a horrible position right here. Needs to get the ball carrier free. It's critical right now. Easy hit on the source, that works. Okay, you have 2 other dwarves that are free that could be coming to help right now.
A block made out of desperation.
So I'm gonna guess the logic at this point in the match. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's kind of what the outcome was gonna be. Because in that situation, I mean, with 3 people up on the ball carrier like that, you only get 1 blitz. It was going to be impossible to get the ball carrier out of there without making a dodge roll. So, nothing else you really could have done there. I guess it makes sense that you're not going to have people come over and mark because dodge roll was going to be the same anyway. You might as well hit other people, right? But again, I think you probably could have gone out of this situation 2 turns earlier. And now he's just going to get a free touchdown. Oh, unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Nothing you can do about that. That's just Nuffle. Nuffle is the god of dice rolling, for the record. It's like RNGesus, but for board games. Good hit. Runner gets the ball. Huh? Nice. Okay, okay. Decent position to be in. If you're lucky, you can sweep it along the left side, but you only got 2 turns left, and I just don't think a touchdown is going to come out of that, unfortunately. So I guess the best move right now would be to just get the ball as far away as you can from the end zone. And there's the swoop and touchdown.
That's it. Down and touch, everybody. Sorry. Touchdown. I mean, wide. A bit wide. Any advice, boy, for the side that's down 2 touchdowns?
Take out your will and check your insurance policies. Keep away from the fans, because they're not gonna be happy.
Let me just skip this.
They've kicked the ball.
So,
now it's time to think.
before we finish this up, only a couple turns left. One thing that you could have done at the end there, you know, I believe that wasn't a turnover when you last moved that runner, when you moved him roughly over here. In that situation, if it seems like you're just in a bad position, the runner's not going to get covered, they're probably going to get hit, somebody's probably going to get the ball and score a touchdown. I would say the best thing that you can do at that point is you can click on your player and have them pass to an empty space. They don't have to pass to a player, they can literally just throw it in a given direction, and then just throw the ball as far away from your own zone as you possibly can. At least hoping to stop the enemy team from scoring, if nothing else, right? So. I'm not going to say that was the obvious solution, because I think most people probably wouldn't have thought about that, but it is something you can do. Sweltering heat.
Jim. Buckets of it.
Oof.
In fact, we may see more sweat than blood for once.
Okay, bad kick. Gets a touchback. Just curious real quick. Okay, in theory, it would take quite a bit of luck. In theory, in this situation, you could get a touchdown as Dwarves if you were to throw the ball to one of your blitzers here on the sides. They have just enough movement that over 2 turns, if you made it going for it, roll twice, you would be able to get into the end zone. That's asking for a lot, but crazier things have happened. I would say in this situation, probably not a bad idea to, you know, try it. It's probably the only way you're going to get a ball on one of your, well, your blitzers of 3 agi actually, but yeah, it's probably one of the only ways you're going to get the ball on a player that's not a runner. Right? Because this late in the match, you're not going to get a touchdown for doing a regular, like, cages and stuff like that. It's just too slow.
I think he's moving. No, he's not.
Anyway, I think we can probably see how the rest of this match is going to go. It's just going to be a bunch of punching, I would imagine. Like that.
Thesaurus, they get hard.
When you only have 2 turns left and you start a new drive, there's not a whole lot else to do.
Pushing. Here comes the last chance pass. Now that's how you move the ball.
Pass for free skill points, why not? No reason not to. The only thing that I would say is that if it's the end of the game like this and you're going to pass for skill points, you might as well make it as short a pass as possible so you have the highest chance of doing it. But, I mean, you're just trying to farm skill points there. It's not like you're trying to get a touchdown or something, so it's not really that important. And a KO.
Yes, the unmistakable sign of a player's eyes rolling up into his head. Out for some time.
I wouldn't even bother doing that because you can't move next turn anyway. And you don't have a blitz. Might as well just go for the hits that you're able to get right now and then just end your turn. But it's not like it's a misplay or anything, so who cares?
After that match,
Alright, that's the match.
I need to
0-2.
change my undergarments.
So
Take over, Bob, while I am.
take a look at the stats here. Now, even though the Dwarves lost here,
Yeah, do your constant whatever somewhere else, Stinky.
thanks, Bob. Even though the Dwarves lost here, I would honestly say that if you look at the skill point gain, Dwarves actually kind of came out on top. It wasn't great for either player, to be honest with you. Sure, you level up to Skink, and you know he's got 11 skill points. He's well on his way to level 3. So you might have a ball runner in the making, but the fact of the matter is that Skinks die quite often. And while they are the ones running your balls, I would not say that they are players that are going to stick around, especially if you're playing in a league that has teams that are well suited to killing other players, which we have multiple teams in this league that are. So to be honest with you, 11 skill points, while that's great, I don't really think it's actually that helpful on that player. It would have been nice if your MVP went somewhere else, but that's randomized, so you can't really help it. Now, Dwarves didn't get a whole lot of skill points either. They only got 8, but, I mean, they're spread out. Plus 5 on one of the Troll Slayers is actually quite nice. Leveling up your killers early in the league is pretty cool. Those Troll Slayers can get scary. So, all things considered, lost the match, but I think kind of won on the skill points. Not much else to say here, I think. So that's probably going to be me wrapping it up.
Did you know?
I hope everybody found that helpful. I hope that, you know, maybe you learned something. I hope it wasn't overly critical. I know that I was talking a lot about the dwarf player, but I think it's easy to talk about the team that lost, I guess. And honestly, dwarves are a lot harder than lizardmen are, for certain. Lizardmen are very straightforward. Punch shit, kill people, get skill points. Dwarves have a lot more nuance to them, and even though you might think that they're simple on the outset, they really, I don't think they are. So, credit to the dwarves here. You know, you'll just get better as the league goes on, so don't worry about it too much. All right, yeah. Hopefully that helped out. So, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know.